We're going to work with Audition's special effects in this tutorial. We're going to work with these files. To go get them, go to the Working Files Music subfolder, Just Couldn't Be That Way subfolder, and get the guitar excerpt and the vocal excerpt, and then go and get the Gettysburg file inside the narration subfolder. All right, so let's take a look at those special effects. There are 5 of them. Now they're called special, but they could just as easily be called miscellaneous or other. They're just sort of an extra category here where we stuck in these things that just don't seem to fit anywhere else. There are 4 effects that can work in both the file directly and in the effects rack, and then there's one that is a process-only effect, and that works only on the clips directly. We're going to work with the ones that work in the effects rack first, and then save Doppler shifter for the end. Let's start off with Vocal Enhancer, which is the easiest effect in the group. In fact, it's the easiest effect in all of Audition. I'll turn it on. See, you have 3 choices, male, female, or music. And so this is a male voice, and we want to enhance the male voice. Let's listen to the enhancement for a second. I'll have it on, then I'll have it off.
87 years ago,
Off.
our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation,
Back on.
conceived in liberty and dedicated.
So you can see that it kind of pushes the audio out the middle. It's really intended to take vocals and try to place them in front of music by doing a little compression. And on top of that, it also takes care of the sibilants, that S sound, and also plosives. Plosives are when you pop your P's. It tries to remove those popped P's as well. And it might take a little bit of microphone rumble too. But I do notice that in the quiet passages, you do hear a little bit of extra noise there.
Nation.
There's kind of a little static going on in those quiet passages. So since it is kind of a combo automatic effect, I'm always kind of inclined to not work with automatic effects and rather try to do things individually, like use the de-esser to take care of sibilants, things like that. But this is kind of a quick fallback. Let me pop over to the vocal here, and that'll be a female vocal, so we'll try the female enhancement. I think you're going to hear that it doesn't do that much. It says male in the preset, but it doesn't make a difference. As long as this thing is selected, it'll work.
I couldn't give you what you wanted.
And I'll turn it off.
I couldn't give what you were asking for.
Back on.
I couldn't give you what you wanted.
So again, it does enhance it just a little bit, not a whole lot, not too obvious. The music side of things kind of pulls the music back again to help you place a voice on top of it. So that's the vocal enhancer. Let's move on to distortion. I'm going to apply distortion to the female vocalist and then also do it with a guitar. Distortion presents you with this graphic user interface with 2 charts here. The one on the left talks about dealing with positive, and the one on the right's negative. What this means is you're adjusting the waveform that's above the crossing lines. So you're taking the parts of the waveform that are up here and doing something with them. You can make them louder or quieter. And then dealing with the parts of the waveform that are below the crossing line and making them louder or quieter. And just by doing that, that creates some pretty ugly distortion. It's pretty hard to get something beautiful out of the distortion effect. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to start playing this. I'm going to adjust these curves just a little bit because a little bit goes a long way, and then you get a chance to see what that sounds like.
I couldn't give what you were asking for. I couldn't give you what you...
So see how that works? And these are, hard angles here. You can adjust those angles and smooth them out to try to at least take some of the edge off this effect. But again, it'll still be distorted.
You wanted. I gave you...
If you're going to use it with a voice, you've got to use it for effect. You're not likely to use this thing to make something better. You're likely to use this thing to just create some kind of strange feel with the music. Now, there are some presets, and do use these with some care. When you see infinite distortion, it's going to sound absolutely awful. It might blow out your speakers or your headset or your ears. That's the same thing like for maximum pain. They mean it. I'm not going to play this now because it really will be awfully loud. Just be aware that if you do try some of these presets, do it carefully. In fact, you might want to take the output here from the effects rack and knock the output way, way down, like, minus 20 dB or something before you start trying these guys out, and then make your adjustments here as you go along. So let's close this guy down, go over to the guitar, and that would be a more appropriate instrument, I think, to use distortion with. So let me just open up distortion. There's a preset on here that's called Pick Scraper, which I think really works well with a guitar that's intended to sound distorted. But before I turn that little puppy on, I'm going to take this guy down, as I suggested, to like minus 15 or so, and let's see what that sounds like. Sounds pretty cool. I mean, the guitar already is distorted. Let me turn this off so you hear the original. There you go. This guy just kind of amps it up a little bit. If I were to pull some of these things down, you'll see how the changes take place. I'll take it down again a little bit, and we'll start messing with these controls a little bit. I'll take this thing back to the beginning. Over here. There you go. We'll play this again. We'll play it along. You can see you can control the graphs to adjust the quality of the sound. And there are many other presets here that provide all kinds of other kinds of distortion. But we'll move on from there to the guitar suite, which again really works well with a guitar. The guitar suite is intended to emulate some specific kinds of equipment that people use with some electric guitars, particularly the distortion. There's something here called fuzz, overdrive, and straight fuzz. These little buttons that you see those guitar players stomp on the stage as they switch from one kind of sound effect to another. And these filters here, there's something called retro, and the talkbox AEIOU. Talkbox is that effect you've seen guys like Peter Frampton and Stevie Wonder use. They have a little tube in their mouth, and they change the shape of their mouth, and then that changes the shape of the sound. So you can emulate that using these things here. We'll try a couple of defaults here with the guitar suite. Breakfast of Radiation. I'm going to tone the volume down again. There it is, minus 10.2. Let's see what this sounds like here. I'll move it over a little bit and see what we got. So there's a compressor and a filter and distortion amplifier. And these are supposed to sound like things that are brand name or things that people are very much aware of. And there are switches that have bypass or not bypass. Well, here the bypasses are turned off. That means that you're hearing all of these things going on at once. You can decide after you set the preset there to try a different one like smooth overdrive. Change the amount. Change the amplifier. Take your pick. You can bypass the amplifier. Instead of retro here, we'll go down to one of those talk boxes. All kinds of fun things can be done in the guitar suite. This is one of those tools that you can apply to other instruments besides guitars, and the possibilities are endless. I really love playing with this guy, so I recommend you mess around with it too. And then when you find a preset you like, don't forget you can always click on this Save as Settings as a Preset button and then put some presets in here that you can come back to that you can use on your own. Close that guy down. We've exhausted the possibilities here in the guitar suite. Let me go back to the vocal excerpt here. And I want to try mastering. Turn off distortion, turn on mastering. Mastering is a all-in-one jack-of-all-trades effect that I think as a result is something you don't want to use. It has an equalizer with only 3 options, 3 different frequencies that you can change. You know, why use this when you can go to filter and EQ and look at parametric equalizer, and you've got 7 here, plus the high pass and low pass. So here you have only 3. You have a reverb with only a single slider. You know, why take a reverb with a single slider when you've got 5 reverb effects that have all kinds of options? The one little interesting thing here is exciter that kind of amplifies the treble end of things, the high frequency end of things, and does kind of add a little emphasis. But again, you've got all other kinds of effects that can do that. The widener spreads out a stereo signal. We have a mono here, so it's not active. And then the loudness maximizer is kind of like a compressor, and the output gain, again, is something you can find elsewhere. So I think we don't really need to use this effect. It's one of those guys that probably was good in the old days, but I don't think you want to use it now, especially somebody taking this course who wants to use these other effects to good purposes. So I'm going to just cut out of that one. So now it's time to move on to the last effect, and that's the Doppler shifter effect down here in the special category again. You see it's a process effect, so you got to apply it directly to a clip. But applying it to a mono clip is a waste of time. It has no effect on a mono clip. You need a stereo clip for this guy to really work. So I'm going to click away from that, open up our guitar, and I'm going to convert this to a stereo clip. Go to Edit, Convert Sample Type. And it's going to give you this message saying, you got these guys in the effects rack. You're going to get rid of them. It's okay. We're fine with that. Click stereo, and off we go. Now I've got a stereo file. I'm going to apply the Doppler shifter to it now. Special Doppler shifter. And you get this kind of cool graphical interface. You think you can maybe grab something and move it around, but it's just a representation of what this effect is going to sound like depending on the preset that you select. Something like, let's just take a look at like that. You see that it changes. Now you've experienced Doppler shift many times. It happens when a car comes towards you or a train, something like that, and you hear the pitch go up as it comes towards you and then drop as it goes by. It goes something like that. That's because as this vehicle is moving towards you, the wavelengths are being compressed and the frequency is being increased. So that raises the pitch. And then when it goes by, it means that the wavelengths are being stretched out and the frequency is dropping. So it's lowering the pitch. And that's Doppler shift. And the Doppler shifter does that. Now this is, I don't know, it's hard to think of how many times you're going to use this in music, for example, or in a narration. But it's something you could use certainly as a special effect if you're doing something on the video side of things. And so you can just switch over to Audition to apply this guy to an audio file just for that kind of cool effect. So we'll take a couple of presets here. We'll try, let's say, super fast passing train. And we'll just preview that and see how it works. Never heard a guitar do that before, folks. Let's try something else. We'll try being spun in circles. Now, what does that mean? It's going to go round and around every 1.3 seconds. And how can you do something circular when you're in stereo? So you hear it go by as it goes past you, and you also hear it go closer to you and farther away in terms of the volume level. So we'll preview that. Like a very fast merry-go-round. Now, you're not stuck with whatever the presets say. You can change the radius, the velocity, all kinds of stuff. And if you do something linearly, you can change how far away it starts and how fast it goes. These are the presets, but you can do whatever you want to. And let's just see what this sounds like passing on the left-hand side here. I think you get a sense how it works. I'm going to do one more thing here. We'll try the ambulance. Here we go. Okay. So there's the Doppler shifter, and that wraps up our coverage of the 5 special effects here in Audition.